Hey everyone, I am Technical Sergeant Sotelo. I am the VP for our 37th Training Wing Diversity and Inclusion Council. Today I am here with Master Sergeant Alejandro Velez, who was our guest during our last meeting for our Storytellers portion. Hopefully you were there. In the meeting, Master Sergeant Velez gave us his unique Air Force journey from the circumstances that made him join the Air Force up until how he got through basic military training knowing pretty much very little English, close to no English. And then he took us through how he got up to tech school at that point. He sits here now as a Squadron Superintendent, and today we are going to get part 2 of that story. So, Master Velez, before our last meeting ended, you talked about what happened right after basic training. You talked about the tests that were required every week that you were going to have to take for tech school, and how basically people were just telling you it might be impossible for you to make it through, right?
Yeah.
Luckily for you though, you met with a mentor at IAAFA. It was kind of fate in that way.
Correct.
That you caught this mentor that worked at IAAFA who was willing to mentor you outside of work hours just to get you through. He kind of saw something in you and he was like, hey, I'm going to do what I can to help you get through your tech school. Do you want to share a little bit more about how you got through tech school and then eventually how you got to your first base?
Yeah, sure. Then most definitely. First of all, thank you for the opportunity.
Yes,
once
sir.
again. So yes, basically, what I want to tell you is that in this particular scenario, what happened was that this person had a vision for me. As the leader, he had a vision for me, but it was really up to me to actually make it happen. As a follower, to actually make this vision come into reality. I didn't really understand it at the beginning, to be honest with you. To me, it was like he was exaggerating. I just didn't comprehend the vision. But the truth is, you don't need to. You don't need to. Just follow the leader. He knows what he's doing, and he was seeing some things in me that I didn't even know myself. So what he did is he helped me out with my English. He helped me out with my American culture, because I really didn't know too much of it. Honestly, my English professor was like Tupac and Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, and I didn't even know what they were saying in the songs, but I was just kind of like imitating the sounds. So that's who my English professor was, because I really didn't care about school, like I said before. So he actually took the time without having to, because he was not in my chain of command, he was not related to me, nothing.
Right.
He just saw something in me and he helped me out. I made the effort to actually be there, punctual every single day for the next basically 6-7 weeks until I graduated. Once again, he helped me out with the language, with the culture, and he helped me out with security forces, because like you were saying, fate, this guy happened to be a security forces instructor. And what I was going through was security forces tech school. So it made sense, to me it was very surprising, but he helped me out a lot. So once I finally graduated from tech school, I didn't graduate as I was estimated on the 11 weeks. Mm-hmm. I remember I told you that I made a promise to these basic training instructors, the BMT instructor, about that I would come back in 11 weeks and I would give him my diploma.
Yes.
So that didn't happen as I expected, because it took me 12 weeks. So I was got watched back, and with the help of the IAAFA instructor, I went back in, I focused on the solution and not really the problem, and I was able to graduate on my 12th week. My 12th week, I got the diploma, and I went to try to fulfill that promise, and I went looking for that same instructor at the dorms basically, and I looked for him everywhere. At that time, I already looked different, because I didn't have that much stress, so I wasn't as thin, I looked differently, and I could at least communicate a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, it sounded, the accent was bad, even worse than it is right now, but I could communicate at least. So I was looking for this guy. It took me about an hour to actually find him, but I was not going to leave those dorms until I actually find him. And I found him. He looked at me. He didn't know who I was in the beginning. And then I said, hey, sir, do you remember me? Velez, Alejandro Velez, the guy that didn't speak any English. And I said it in English. I was proud of my progress,
right.
Which it wasn't too much, but I was proud. And he looked at me like, yeah, what are you doing here? And I said, sir, I'm here to fulfill a promise. Remember I told you that I will be back at my 11 weeks? And he said, yeah, I guess. And he said, well, it took me 12 weeks, but I'm here, sir, and I'm here to give you my diploma. And what for? Sir, because I want you to remember that when it comes to leading or developing, you need to focus on, you need to develop, you need to build military members, not destroy them. And just like me, it doesn't have to be the language, it can be any other deficiency, it could be anything. But your job is to actually build the people up, as you know, build leaders, basically. So he looked at me like, okay, he wasn't really tracking what I was saying, but I knew exactly, I had a mission, I was a man in a mission, and I needed to prove a point. So like, sir, I know that people like me, and once again, not in the language, forget about the language, forget about the country, it could be anything, it could be sexual harassment, it could be mental deficiency, it could be anything. Just try your best as a leader to get to know this person, you know, find out what's going on with him. He may have a lot of potential that you're not seeing, because normally people, as human beings, we focus a lot on the superficial part and not really internally. And sometimes we just get rid of people that could have potential, you know, game changers, just because they just didn't look apart. They didn't fit the profile, you know, that we're looking for, or I guess that we were looking for back then. You know, I was just not looking like the, you know, the Air Force, you know,
the full image.
Yeah. I guess the one in the poster, the air in the poster, it wasn't me. I was like looking completely different. So he took the certificate. I left. I didn't say anything else.
It was a copy, right? You didn't give him the real.
No, I gave him the real one. No, I wasn't even thinking. I just wanted to make a point. I gave him the real one. I didn't think about it.
Put this on your wall.
and what happened then was that I thought I would not see this guy again. But what happened is that my clearance took a long time to actually process. So they left me here in the Security Forces Squadron, and I ended up at the gates checking ID cards for like probably almost a year, like 10 months. So checking ID cards one day, and you know, people were coming in, and all of a sudden I see this guy, this car coming in. I saw the face, and it looked familiar to me. At that moment, it already had been like 6 months after what I told you. And this guy stopped me and said, "Hey, Velez, do you remember me?" And I was like, "Oh shit, that's the instructor. That's who it is." And he looked at me and said, "I'm very proud of you." And that meant a lot to me. That meant a lot, because I haven't heard those words, especially from somebody that was doubting me. And he asked me if he could talk to me for a couple of minutes. So I said, "Yes, sir." I asked somebody to relieve me, and we went to the visitor center, actually right here in Valley High. Yeah, right there in Valley High, and he came in, and he wanted to tell me a story, and I said, "Yeah, sure. What happened?" Like, Velez, you know, I want to appreciate. Now, I want to let you know that I appreciate very much what you did for me. Maybe you don't realize it, but you actually changed completely my perspective. I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." Now I was the one saying, like, okay, I was not tracking. You know, like, what happened? Like, let me tell you a story. So I had this girl on my last flight, and that when she came in, she looked very nervous. You know, there was something behind her that nobody really knew. And a lot of people, the instructors, including leadership, was thinking about just getting rid of her. You know, she just didn't. Once again, she didn't fit the profile of what the Air Force was looking for at that time. And they want to get rid of her, and it reminded me so much of you, but not because of the accent, not because of the language, because she spoke English perfectly. I mean, she was from here, but there was something behind that. There was a story behind it that I wanted to know, and I started thinking about you, and I decided to just not quit on her, and I started talking to her, and I realized that what had happened was that when she was younger, she was a victim of sexual harassment by her own family, and she had that thing inside that she was great. She had a lot of potential, but during particular moments that will react. They will click in her, and she'll get nervous, and she'll start crying. So I started talking to her, and I remember, like, I was talking to her like if I was talking to you. That's what he said to me. And I decided to not quit on her, and we worked with her. We realized that our job was to build her up, and she had the potential. She just had some deficiencies that we could work on. And right now, I'm very proud to say that we graduated her. and she is a proud member of the United States Air Force, just like you. And she's probably going to go to do great things. I don't know the name. I really didn't really ask at that moment, but I was very happy that my message came across. Because that was the point that I wanted to make. You know, at that time, that's what I wanted to make. You don't. There's some people. Look, there's some people more resilient than others. I'm a hard guy. I take a lot of pressure, and I actually do better under pressure. But not everybody's the same way. You know, there's some people that are more sensitive. You know, and it's harder for them. So instead of like, let's say, growing under pressure, they actually break. So you need to know them and go behind the story and find out the story behind it. Wow. So what happened after that is I finished my like 6 more months at Lackland, and then I got my first assignment to Hickam. Okay. I went to Hickam. I was a security forces guy at Hickam, and you would think, oh, Hickam, you know, Hawaii, oh, beautiful place, you know, it's paradise. But guess what? Nothing is paradise when you don't have your mind right. And unfortunately, I was very, very negative. Like I told you before, I think I said this on the last session, is my mind was in Colombia still, and my body was in the United States. So I was just thinking about going back. So what I'm trying to say with this is that not because I went through all this struggle, and you know, it doesn't mean that I completely changed. I was in the process of changing, but I was not necessarily the better person. I was adapting, but there's still a lot of temptations, a lot of things in my head that I couldn't tell you that it was done. You know, hey, Alejandro Velez changed and now he's a new man. No, unfortunately not, you know. But I was going through the process. So part of it was the negativism and surrounding myself with all negative people. Because that's what it is. You know, sometimes in order to grow, you got to see friends. Unfortunately, this is how I feel, like if it was clothes. And then what I mean by that is that sometimes you grow so much that your friends don't feed you anymore. You know, and if you stay with the same friends, then it's going to be bad on you. So sometimes, unfortunately, we need to upgrade because we grow, we mature, and we need to change that. We can't stay with the same people that are still being negative. That was my mistake. That was one of my mistakes. So for the next, let's say, 10 years of my career, unfortunately, I was more focused on my weakness. On, you know, I was doing my job, my best job as possible, security forces. Then I retrained to be a personnelist, and I was doing a good job. You know, honestly, I was trying hard, but unfortunately, I was focusing a lot on my weakness. Oh my God, you know, I don't speak English as good as everybody else. You know, I'm not at the same level than everybody else. I was just victimizing myself for like 10 years. And even though I was still, you know, still getting promoted, and still doing my job, still going through college, I was doing a lot of things. But my victimization didn't let me go through that roof that I created to myself. And in particular, at my age, I believe that we need to stop focusing so much on our weaknesses.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be perfect on every single aspect. That's just how it is. Focus on your strengths. What are your strengths? You know, what is that one thing, you know, that you're so good at, and maybe in the Air Force also, you know, what is that good thing? What is that job that you know that if you actually get, you will actually you will surpass the expectations. You will make an impact and benefit everybody.
So at some point in your career, you retrained, right? So that means that you have to go through another tech school.
Correct.
How are you able to get through that tech school? And it seems like you have a lot of like drive. Like that's your strength, is getting from one goal to the next goal to the next goal and making it regardless of any obstacles in front of you. It seems like you're very good at that. How did you get from that point of retraining, getting through a whole nother tech school, and then dealing with customers as a personnelist, and then making your way through multiple years through your career, promotion testing and everything? How did you make your way through that?
So promotion, when it comes to promotion, I knew that I was not at the same level of proficiency in my English, like I was saying before, so I needed to study harder. You know, I just needed to study the double than everybody else. You know, I saw that I was just not comprehending that it would take me twice the time that a regular person. So I was doing that twice the work. You know, that's the reason that's the way that I got promoted. That plus I have to admit a little bit of motivation when people were telling me, "Nah, Velez, come on, man, he's never going to be promoted. He's never going to get promoted." NCO, Staff Sergeant Velez, that doesn't really, he's never going to be able to do that. Velez going to college, man, he's never going to be able to do that. So I use that as fire. I use that as motivation to actually prove people wrong.
Right.
I don't do that anymore. I kind of prove my own self right instead of proving people wrong. But that's how that was my mechanism at that time. Unfortunately, even when I did my retraining at my 8th year from Security Forces to Personnelist, my English was still not as great. I remember that I still had issues taking tests. So I was going through. I went through tech school, and I still failed some tests at the end, like the final test, if I remember correctly. And I think around that time I was having some stress issues and some family situations going on, so that didn't help. But still, you know, I failed the test, and I remember I had to. They sent me to the education center, I think, to find out what was my level of comprehension in English. I could do my job. I was doing freaking college. You know, I was doing classes. I was getting promoted, but for some reason, you know, during that test in that tech school, I just didn't pass it the first time. So they put me through some test stuff to find out what my comprehension level. I think they said like 9th grade. So you know, 9th grade of English, you know, school level. So I'm probably right now in 10th grade probably right now. But that's what happened. So.
Okay.
I did that test. I had a second opportunity to actually take the actual exam to graduate from tech school, and I was able to make it. And after that, I just went to become a personnelist. The situation that I went through, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be able to relate with this, is that I went as a staff sergeant. And I went as a staff sergeant, a personnelist staff sergeant, to my first assignment. And what happened was that they right away assumed that because you're a staff sergeant, you should know your stuff.
Right.
But I was new to the career field, and I learned what I learned in tech school. But we all know that it's not all. You know, it's not everything. You need to learn as you do the job. You know,
Yes.
and when they realized that I just didn't know what I was doing. The easy part, and I'm not saying this to like poor me, it's more like so people identify with this, and hopefully they realize that you shouldn't be doing this, is it was easier for my supervisors at that time, or my leaders at that time, to just say, hey, just put Velez in to make ID cards, or just send him to whatever section it is. You know, we're not even gonna bother with him. And this time was not the English. It was just I didn't really know the job, and I was already staff sergeant. So sometimes it's easier to get rid of the person than to actually build them, you know, and grow them to actually be what they're supposed to be. So yeah, it took me a couple of years to actually adapt to the personnel, the career field, especially coming from security forces to personnel. You know, it's a drastic change. You know, because you're supposed to be in one side, you're supposed to be tough and hard, and then you're supposed to be more sensitive. So I adapted well for the circumstances.
Okay, so before we went back through you retraining and everything and getting through another tech school as a personnelist, you did mention that something else drastic happened at about year 12 in your career. What was that?
I think it was a signal, like a wake-up call. I want to believe that it was God sending me a signal. And it was something, it was a message that I saw in the Air Force portal, is when I saw it. So it was 2013, and I was doing my job as a CSS personnelist, you know, just I'm very passionate about it, to be honest with you. I didn't really love the job too much. Doing my job, just doing my regular job. Very average, to be honest with you. And I even will say that I was mediocre. So I was looking at my computer, and I saw the Air Force portal, and I saw something that said Air Force Culture Language Center. So I was looking at this article in the Air Force portal, and it talked about Air Force Language Culture Center and the LEAD program. And when I read the description, He was saying something about the Air Force is looking for people that would speak a different language or are familiar with a different culture or grew up in a different place. Basically, I felt like they were talking to me. Like, man, this is exactly what I'm good at. And it started clicking. It's like, okay, man, that's one of my strengths. It may be what the sergeant, what the instructor from IAAFA said so many years ago, maybe he was actually right, and maybe this is the path. So I kept reading, and I saw applications to actually be part of the LEAD program, and I decided to go in. And I felt like, for the first time in my Air Force career, to be honest with you, I felt like I belonged to something. Like I was actually using my skills, and I was not an average anymore. I felt like it actually matched. And I was doing TDYs with them, and I was volunteer for every single mission they could provide me. While at the same time, I was still doing my job as a personalist, but now I was doing it with more passion because it made sense to me. It made sense. It's just like, okay, I do my job the best possible, but I'm separating myself from everybody else with things that I'm good at. So I did the trainings, I did the TDYs, and it started making sense. And my motivation started coming because I felt like I was valuable. Honestly, that's what made it different. My entire career changed as soon as I realized that I was valuable to the Air Force. And it gave me that spark to actually be the best, and be the best I could. And I tried, and I keep doing my job as best as possible. And then I started realizing, man, I'm going to keep applying for that job at IAAFA. Remember I made that promise? So I kept trying for that job, and it was not happening. At the end of the day, I applied 17 times for the job that I actually currently have. But like I said, it made sense. It's basically when you feel valuable, you get that spark, that motivation, that fuel to actually keep going. And that's what actually turned my career around completely.
Wow. So obviously you faced some personal challenges through your career. Some kind of discrimination, even in your new career field as a personnelist, where they kind of put you in backshot positions because of your language challenges, your challenge with the English language, which was a form of discrimination in a way, not really giving you the opportunities. So what did you learn about leadership? What type of leadership lessons did you take away from that? Whether you were treated good or whether you were treated bad, what did you take from that?
Okay, so there's two sides to that coin. The first side is the follower side. So me as the follower, as a subordinate, I didn't do anything to actually change their mind. So I wasn't really doing myself any favors. So that's part of it, even though I was going through this different treatment, or just people just didn't believe that I was good enough, or that I could that I could grow in this case in the personnel career field. I could become anything special. I was not doing anything to prove them that different. I was basically following what they were doing, so I was part of the problem. That's what it is. If you're not doing anything different to prove the negative comment that comes towards you, then you're part of the problem. You're basically telling them that they're right. And from the leadership side, I think it's a culture thing. I think the reason they had that, they treated me that way, or they felt that way, I think it's because I was different. And at that moment, particular moment, being different was just not a positive thing. It was they felt like it was a threat to what they're used to. As human beings, we want to know how life is going to be. We want to make sure that everything is going to normal. We don't want no changes. Adapting to changes is difficult, and people just don't want it. You rather stay at a comfort zone. And I believe it applies also with this type of situation. Why change the culture and accept people that are different than you if we can just keep living with what we already know? So it's just adapting to change. And thank God, now is different. It's being evolving, and is changing. And one of the messages that I would like to tell people And once again, not necessarily on language or culture, but this is what makes the United States and the United States Air Force so powerful. For example, in the academy where I work at IAAFA, you find people that could easily blend in our partner nations' military like normal, you know, and can influence and can help and assist our allies just because they look and they sound just like them. And then they come back and they can be just as American or just as a U.S. Air Force airman as anybody else. I honestly believe that there's no other country that can do that. No China, no Russia. I don't think nobody out there has that potential, that so-called the melting pot. You know, we have that power in the United States. Being different is now a strength. And so, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how basically how I like to see it.
Wow. Okay. So, if you were an MTI for the Colombian military, and you had someone come up to you and they were trying to get through basic training and they knew no Spanish, maybe they spoke Portuguese or maybe spoke German, and they showed up, would you give them the same chances that you were given? Would you give them the opportunity?
Okay, so because I went through my situation, yes, but I have to be honest. You know, maybe if I wouldn't know better, if I didn't have to go through the struggles that I went through, maybe I would have acted similar to the way they acted with me. I just being honest. I don't want to lie to you and tell you that I'm just the best person. No, maybe that would be so impactful that I wouldn't know how to react at the beginning. And it's funny that you mentioned it because back about a year ago, I was in Colombia. I think I mentioned it before. And I went to the deployment, basically to help out with the enlisted force structure and to develop some CNCO academies in the Air Force in Colombia. I had that opportunity. And one of my stops when I was traveling to different bases, one of the things that I want to do is talk to the officers, because I believe that, you know, the officer schools where the changes start. I think, you know, we talk to cadets. That's where you start the changes. So I decided to go to the Air Force Academy in Cali, Colombia, for officers. And I was talking to the cadets, and I was telling a little bit about my story, because to them it seemed weird, you know, that I was wearing, that I would be wearing this uniform and sounding the way I sound.
Right.
Because honestly, in Spanish, I still have the accent that I always had. It never went away. And people are very surprised. After 20 years, I still speak with the Paisa from Medellin accent that I never lost it. So to them, you know, an Air Force guy, U.S. Air Force guy, in this uniform, you know, talking to them in Spanish with their accent was weird. I was like, oh. So I was telling a little bit of my story of who I was and how I came in. And then I hear somebody saying, oh, that's exactly what happened to Jake. And I was like, well, what happened to Jake? Well, so now I was curious then, and I asked, well, what do you mean? Jake, what Jake? You know, I was telling everybody, like, this will never happen to anybody. I mean, I think I'm special. They're like, no, that's what happened to Jake. They're like, who's Jake? And then they told me the story that I just was not expecting at all, about a guy that he grew up in Australia, speaking English. His parents are from Colombia, but at home they didn't really teach him any, or didn't teach him, I guess, well, he didn't really learn Spanish. So he understood a little bit, but not too much. And he grew up in Australia, and I don't know what made him want to become an officer in the Colombian Air Force after living his entire life in Australia. So he decided that when he was, I don't know, 20 years old, something like that, to go to Colombia, a place that he never really knew. You know, he was never been there before, and decided to join the Colombian Air Force as an officer. Wow. He didn't speak the language. He understood a little bit, so he was struggling just like me. At that moment, I was like, man, damn, I guess I'm not that special anymore. You know, they ruined my story. But I was very curious, so I talked to a guy, and he explained to me the struggles that he's going through and how to adapt. but that his vision about becoming a Colombian Air Force, that's what he wanted. You know, I don't understand, you know, I really don't, but I don't need to understand, you know.
Right.
I just see this guy vision and his sustained effort to actually make it happen. So I was telling you before, motivation is not enough, you know. But this guy had the motivation and the sustained effort to keep that motivation all the way to finish his goal. So he was telling me, we were talking, and it was the same situation, same struggles. You know, people didn't understand why he was there. But fortunately, now in 2019, that was you know, last year, now people are a little bit more understandable. They're not as close-minded, so that helped. Plus my story, I think it helped a little bit because they're like, oh, okay, I guess we got to treat this guy better.
Right.
So to get back to your question, what I always say is that you know, I'm thankful that I went through my situation because it actually makes me understand the bigger picture. So if that would happen to me, I will definitely have more patience, and I will realize that my job is to develop leaders and not really to break people.
So before we end our story, we do want to know, in your position as a superintendent at IAAFA, how did you get to this point? You said it took you 17 years to get to IAAFA. So how did you get there? And do you feel like in this position you're fulfilling that promise that you made at the beginning to give back to this organization that helped you so much and brought you to this point?
I'm very glad that you actually asked this question because this is how I want to end this interview, by telling how I was able to actually fulfill the promise that I made. So just like you said, it took me 17 years applying for the job. Not only that, but multiple volunteering opportunities to actually help IAAFA. I decided in my mind that that's what I wanted. You know, I needed to make it happen, so whatever it takes. So I was doing that, actually, and I was doing something else that I would say, it doesn't matter now. I was actually going uninvited to the academy, to the IAAFA graduation banquets. I went to 3 of those uninvited just to see if I could find somebody that will help me out to get in. That's how much I wanted. And I used to say this many times to a lot of people. You know, I want to work at IAAFA at any position. I will wash dishes, I will clean toilets, I will do whatever it needs to, but I want to go there. You know, I will make sure to actually show my value. I will work my butt off, and I will, once I get the position, basically, don't give me any freebies, you know, don't close the door on me. I will make sure I'll open the door, and I'll go in and I'll show my work. So what happened is that this happened, you know, my opportunity to actually get to the academy, you know, what I always wanted, you know, the goal that I had of working at IAAFA happened in a very mysterious way. It was very different than most hirings. At that moment, it was 2018, and I was going through 17, I believe, and I was going through one of the hardest times of my life. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. 24th December, and this is not even made up, 24th December, my wife tells me I want to get a divorce. On Christmas time. So no matter how hard you are, how tough you are, this is difficult, it's hard. So I had that going, you know, divorce going. My mother was basically dying. Oh, honestly, she was really, really bad, and I couldn't even concentrate. So I was like, okay, so my motivators are, you know, my wife, I don't have that anymore, okay? At this moment, I don't have no kids, okay? My mother motivates me. She's basically dying. I don't have that anymore. What else do I have? Work. At that moment, my work was very important to me. I was very proud of what I was doing. But I let everything else here affected me, affect my mentality of work. And I was not being mature at work. And after having I would say a clean and a very good career, I started doing things that not necessarily bad things, but I was getting into arguments that I was letting my ego take the best of me, and I was arguing and getting into fights with people that I should mentor, with lieutenants or captains that my job was actually to mentor them, and that affected my work too. So I didn't have my work, I didn't have my family, I didn't have my wife, So I said, okay, you know, working out, that's one of my passions. That's how I don't have no vices or nothing like that. So it's like working out. And then that also went wrong. You know, I torn completely my my bicep in this arm, and I couldn't even work out. So I had to find something to actually keep going. I'm motivated that will keep me going through my career, through my life. Honestly, I was depressed. I don't like to admit it, honestly, but I think I was very depressed at that moment, and I became that negative person again. So at that moment I was working at AFPC and in my purse. You guys probably know my purse. So my job was basically you know, sending my purse and articles, but to me, with my attitude at that time, it felt like it was just pushing buttons. And what happened is that one day, a friend of mine, a coworker, asked me if I wanted to go to Chief Master of the Air Force Wright, to a speech that he was going to do in Randolph. And I said, and I always, for many years, I like motivating people, like leadership. I talked about, you know, resiliency and all that stuff. But at that moment in my life, I completely forgot everything I said. Everything I said was just words, and I was not acting the way I was saying. So this guy was like, hey, can you go? Do you want to go? And I was like, no, man, I don't want to hear that stuff, man. That's a bunch of lies. I don't want to hear that guy. You know, enlisted this is whatever. You know, that's not true. You know, all that stuff that he's saying. Honestly, I felt like the Air Force failed me. But the truth was, I failed my own self. Honestly, that's what happened. And he kept trying to convince me. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'll go. And I went to the speech, to the briefing. And honestly, you know what I wanted to do right there, or what my purpose was, to actually deny every single argument he was going to say. So in my mind, not in public, but I was like listening, and I was going to say, oh, that's bullshit. Okay, that's not true. Okay, he's making that up. And something happened that changed completely what he was saying. It felt like he was actually talking to me. I felt he was actually talking to me. When he said something that I will never forget. Hey, the right person at the right time, at the right job, with the right set of skills, with the right attitude. And when he said that, I kept thinking about me and IAAFA again. You know, what about trying one more time? And a lot of those things started making sense again. And when I finished the speech, and I went back to my office, and I decided to look into the Equal Plus, looking into, you know, AMS, and see if there was a position. And right there was a position for superintendent of the 837 training squadron at IAAFA. Wow. Oh man, I gotta apply for this job, you know. And then right there at that moment, I see a chief, my superintendent at that moment, that he went by and he looked at, I was looking at IAAFA, and he said, hey, Velez, I always wanted to ask you that. How come you don't work at IAAFA? You know, it seems like your skills are, you know, meant for that mission. I said, sir, I've been trying, you know, trust me. I've been trying. I applied 17 times, and I just, you know, they haven't said to me, oh, what about you try again? You know, give it a try. So I tried again. I clicked on it, and I was asking, you know, the people at AFPC, you know, if I was you know, what were my chances? If I had any chances to actually get the job. And it seemed at that moment that I was going to be the most qualified, or, you know, the most eligible for the position. So I was very happy. Motivation went back in, and right around that time, there was a possibility to assist IAAFA in something that is called West. And it's a symposium where basically IAAFA invites all the partner nations, you know, and they bring some of their generals and their, you know, Air Force commanders to actually come here and, you know, share ideas and talk about what are the problems that we're facing right now, you know, as partner nations. And so I volunteered myself through the LEAP program, you know, like I was saying. And my mentality was, well, I'm going to show how good I am, you know, so they don't have any doubt that if they hire me, they're hiring the right person. And I got there, and they put me to do the escort for the General of Dominican Republic. I will never forget this. But at the same time, I was thinking, like, if you tell me to escort General, I'll escort 10. So I was asking everybody, what do you need? How can I help you? I was being me. You know, I was being natural. It was a natural thing. I wanted to work there. I wanted to be part of that. And what happened was that I met a chief. A chief that I already knew, but he was part of the LEAD program, and he asked me. His name is Chief Milan, and he asked me, "Hey, Velez, you know, how come you never applied for a job at IAAFA?" I said, "No, sir, I've been applying for a job at IAAFA. Matter of fact, I just applied, and it seems like I'm the most eligible person for the position." He said, "You are? Oh, okay. Let me, I know Chief Flores, you know, the superintendent for IAAFA. Let me talk to him and see what are your chances. You know, I'm definitely going to recommend you because I know that you're very good, you know, when it comes to what the IAAFA requires. You know, the language, the culture, you have a passion for it, to, you know, leadership, all those things." "Oh, yes, sir, I appreciate it. Thank you very much." And the next day, he comes to me and he says, "Hey, Velez, you know, I'm sorry, but I got bad news." And I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go again," you know. And I asked him, "Chief, what happened, sir? You know, what went wrong?" "Hey, Velez, I gotta tell you, they already hired somebody." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And I got frustrated and I was upset. And he said, "No, but don't give up. You know, maybe next time." But I couldn't help it, you know. Being human, you know, you get upset, and I just didn't want to do that job anymore. Didn't want to help IAAFA anymore. Didn't want to be there anymore. And it took about 2 hours to actually get back to the real me and realize, okay, you know, I have to overcome that. It's, you know, it's a bad situation. You know, unfortunately, it didn't happen this time. Okay, it doesn't matter. You know, I brought my positive attitude again. And what happened right there would change my entire life and my career. Is that at that particular moment, when I actually recovered from that situation, there was a speech that the general from Bolivia was doing. So he was actually talking to all the countries and to, you know, our United States Air Force, and our leaders were in the first row. Most of them didn't speak any Spanish, so they had some like a system to actually translate. Mm-hmm. You know, so some headphones, and they had contracted a civilian company that will do the translation. Mm-hmm. So what happened then was that the system went down, and the general kept talking, and he was just keep talking about you know, what he was saying about the briefing, and then everybody else from the United States Air Force was kind of getting upset. Like, "Hey, what happened? You know, this is not working. You know, fix it." And there was a captain in particular that was in charge of the planning of the situation, and he went to talk to the civilians, and you know, and he got bad because the civilians were complaining, and in the middle of the entire, you know, briefing, you know, they were focusing on like the problem, and it was like, "Oh, hey, you need to fix it because we're paying you a lot of money," and he wasn't getting anywhere. And I was seeing how this thing was happening, and inside me I was like, "Man, I got the power to change that. You know, I actually have the power to make it, to have a solution. I can fix the situation." But inside me also, I was thinking about why. Why will I do that? They're not even hiring me. They already told me that they don't want me, so why should I help them out? And it took me a couple of seconds, and I was thinking, man, you know, what should I do? And it's kind of like, you know, in the movies, the little, you know, the devil, the angel. And then I went back to my real me. I'm not like that, man. I'm a positive guy. And I said, you know, if I have the power to actually help, then it's my responsibility to help. And I asked that captain, "Hey, sir, the microphone that you have in your hand, does that work?" Yeah, but what do you need it for? You know, don't you see me? I'm fixing the situation, sir. I can help you out. "No, but don't you see that I'm doing this? Sir, I can help you out. Trust me, I can help you out." And he said, "Just worry about your job. Your job is to escort." And I said, "Sir, if you can give me a microphone, I can help out." And I actually, so I grabbed the microphone, and I don't even know what I was doing at that moment. It just kicked in. Something inside me kicked in automatic. And I went in, and I got that next to I went to the stage and jumped in the stage, and I talked to the general, and I said, "Sir, go ahead and translate and talk for 5 seconds, and make pauses, and I can translate." And when I turned my back, you know, turn around, and I was facing the audience, everybody started clapping. And I realized what I was doing, and I got super nervous because I never done it before. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing right now? And I got very nervous, and I was trying to do I did my best job. Honestly, I did try my best. I don't think it was great, but I did the best I could. You know, I focused on the solution. So they told me, hey, system is fixed. You know, about 30 minutes after, I went down. A lot of people started clapping. You know, I didn't know how to feel until somebody said, hey man, the commander and the chief from IAAFA are looking for you. And I was like, oh my God, man, these guys are gonna freaking kill me. Now I'm definitely not gonna work there anymore. You know, I messed up. You know, I'm not even part of IAAFA, and I'm actually doing this. You know, nobody told me to do it. You know, and they were looking for me, and I said, okay, yeah, I'm gonna look for them. You know, let's see what happens. Whatever happens, happens. And I remember it was the chief, and it was the colonel. It was Chief Flores and Colonel Davidson. And they were looking for me, and Chief said, hey, are you Sergeant Velez? And like, yes, sir. Hey, first of all, I want to tell you how much we appreciate what you did. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought he was going to get mad at me, and he said, yes. You know what? It takes a lot of courage to actually do what you did. There was people that are more prepared than you, and there's people that actually work here at IAAFA that could have done that, and they were just focusing on the problem, and you were focusing on the solution. And I was like, sir, I keep apologizing. I want to do a better job. I'm sorry. Next time I'll do it better. No. You did great. You did great. Honestly, I'm very proud that you actually did that. And he said, hey, is it true that you're actually trying to work here at IAAFA? You sent an application? I said, yeah, yes, sir. I tried, but you know, I know that you guys already selected the person. Like, yeah, we did. But I was talking to the colonel, and we think that you are what we're looking for. And I was like, oh, okay, sir. If that's what it is, I can audition. You know, let me know. You know, I can do an interview. Tell me what I need to do. And he said something that I will never forget. He said this. He said, the thing is that you don't realize it, but you were auditioning for the opportunity of your life without even knowing it. And I will never forget that because I apply it every time. You know, why having a positive attitude? Because you never know when you're auditioning for the opportunity of your life. And what he made me realize back then is that you show your core values. I said, core values. And I started thinking about the core values, integrity, excellence, everything like that. And to me at that point, I didn't realize, but I thought it was kind of like catchy phrases, you know, hey, you know, it sounds nice, but it doesn't really mean anything. But when I went over my head about what I did, it made sense. You know, it made sense. The 3 core values, that's exactly what I did automatically, without even knowing, you know, and that's what a lot of people actually do. What helped me out here was basically to actually be able to have a positive attitude. The rest just kicked in automatically. So he said, hey, Sergeant Velez, congratulations. He gave me a coin, shook my hand, and he said, welcome to IAAFA. We're going to send you some emails, fill some paper, and we expect you here in a month or so. I was crying. I was crying. The tears coming out, and I was really, really happy because 17 years in the making. And the vision, everything came to my mind, you know, the vision that the instructor had for me. So I did all the paperwork, I reported to the academy, and I was going to be the instructor. I was going to be the superintendent for the 837 training squad.
Wow. And
when I got there, it didn't happen like life is not perfect.
Right.
But you gotta look for the positive even in the most negative situations. And what happened to me at that moment was that I came so hungry, so passionate, that I didn't know how to control it. So I was, you know, it was 17 years trying, and I go to the same building where they actually helped me out 17 years ago. And I was very excited, and like I said, I didn't know how to control it, and the commander at that moment probably didn't like my approach. Probably it was probably not what he was looking for, the commander for the squadron at that moment. And he decided that I was not ready, or that I was not the right person to become a superintendent. So we had a meeting, and he said, you know what, we're going to send you to become an instructor. You're going to go to the PME section, and you're going to become an instructor. And I don't think you meet the expectations that I have for superintendent. And I was really upset. And everything that I had said to me and to people that were hearing, listening to me, about, hey, I want to go to IAAFA and work cleaning dishes, you know, cleaning the floors, cleaning toilets, all that stuff. I was not applying it, because now I'm getting the possibility, I'm getting the opportunity, but now I don't like it, because it's not what I wanted. You know, so I was acting like a kid, and I report to the second floor where the PME section is, and now I was not even the flight chief. I wasn't even in charge of the section. I was a master sergeant working for another master sergeant that was even younger than me, you know, but he had more time, you know, doing the job. So my pride got into me, my ego got into me, and I was upset. I didn't want to be there. I was like, man, this is not fair, you know. I started thinking very negative, and all the stuff that I had talked about, you know, working here just went out the window. It's like, man, I don't want to work for this guy. You know, I was told I was going to be a superintendent. This is not fair. And then when I realized, another thing that I realized is that, just like me, most of the people in that squadron had the same negative attitude. And I realized that it was not the vision that that sergeant had, you know, that instructor had sold me, or had, you know, talked to me about, you know, about IAAFA, you know, being the best place for Latinos, you know, for Hispanic, for people that speak a different language. Like, man, this is not what it is. People are not friendly here. People don't like each other. You know, everything is negative. Man, 17 years trying for this, and this is it. I don't like this. And I remember I went home for that weekend, and I was thinking, like, man, all this time trying for this, and this is it. And I'm just going to retire. And I said that. And I was like, see it, 17 years in, and I had two choices. And number one was the easy one. And the one that I was about to take, it was just doing my job, you know, just keep doing average work, you know, basically checking in, checking out, and just retiring at 20. That's what I was thinking. But then I said, if I do that, all the time that I spend applying for the job and my vision, it would be thrown to the trash. It wouldn't mean anything. And I realized that if I wanted that vision to become a reality, it would depend on me. I would have to be that person that changed the attitude in the squadron. That I needed to be humble. I needed a humbling lesson. I needed somebody to actually wake me up, shook me, and say, "No, you're not all that. You need to earn these positions. You need to earn this power. You need to earn being able to get to these places. You know, it's not free." And I needed to hear that, and I realized that the change started with me, and I decided at that moment on a Sunday that on Monday, next day, I was going to change everything around. And I was going to show everything that I talked about, you know, working at IAAFA, I was going to actually live it. Because it's easier to actually give advice and talk. Talk is really easy to do, but then applying it is harder. And I decided that I was going to change my mentality, and that I was going to earn that position, and at some point, I will get to be the superintendent, but it was not going to be easy. So I went from being an instructor to eventually becoming the flight chief, to at the end, you know, getting the opportunity to actually become the superintendent that I am right now. And it came with something that is making me better right now. When I'm the superintendent as a master sergeant in a squadron that has like 10 other master sergeants. So when I was offered the opportunity by the commander, he said, "Velez, are you ready? You're the right person for this job." I thought about it. I was like, man, okay, I need to lead 10 people that are the same rank. How do I do that? You know, because it's easy to lead, and it's easy to actually give orders when you have one strike more than everybody else. But when you have the same rank, then it requires something else. It requires credibility. It requires actually living what you actually preach. It's not only giving orders. But I thought that was the perfect training for me if I wanted to become, one day become a chief, or, you know, to actually be able to help people out. So if I can be a good superintendent as a master sergeant, leading master sergeant, when I become a senior, I will be ready. So I took on the challenge, and thank God, you know, I'm here. You know, that's basically how the process basically happened for my opportunity at IAAFA, and I can say now that I'm fulfilled the promise that I made to this instructor, you know, that I mentioned so many years ago.
Right.
when I see students, when I see people, even here at DLI, you know, I remember about me. I think about me, and it's what makes me keep going and you know and helping out and serving. You know, that serving leadership is what keeps me going.
Wow. Sir, you have an amazing story. I just want to thank you for coming here and telling it to everyone. Your part 1 was amazing, your part 2 was even better. You just gave us so much good information, and it was just amazing how you overcame everything. So thank you again for coming. We're so glad to have you here as a storyteller to give your story to us, the audience, and everyone. So we really appreciate you. We really appreciate you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for viewing. We will have part 2 of Master Velez's story up on our YouTube, and we'll probably post it to our Facebook as well so that you guys can get there. We'll have all that information for you guys at the bottom of the screen. So yeah, once again, if you haven't watched part 1, go back and watch it because it's an amazing story. Watch part 2, and then we'll see you guys on our next meeting.